Today's episode is sponsored by Dance of Gamers. Dance of Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.danceofgamers.co. That is www.danceofgamers.co. Unfortunately, this is how my podcast work every time I host somebody. I mean, some of the people it works, and for some people it doesn't work like you want to, but
Yeah,
you just have to pray and hope that it works.
yeah, because where I am currently, the hospital, we have Wi-Fi, but now it's down, and
Okay.
I'm using MTN internet, so that's what I have to do with for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it works really good. You're clear. Your video is clear, so everything is perfect right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good.
Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show. So yeah, welcome. I'm gonna do this again because I know I welcomed you already, but because we had some internet issues. But welcome again to my podcast, sir.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah,
actually was very surprised to
yeah.
be invited. So I was like, why me? Like, what is it that I have to offer? Like,
I remember your text asking me why did you interview me. So what happened was when I hosted Nyaika on the podcast, he was talking
mm,
about a friend who is a doctor and at the same time a photographer.
yeah,
So when I added you on Instagram, or somehow we got connected on Instagram, I saw you were a doctor intern and a photographer.
yeah,
So in my
yeah,
mind, I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy. But when we were talking, and then I saw pictures taken by William, he's also
yeah, yeah.
like a
Yeah,
doctor at the
William
same time.
is a doctor,
Yeah.
but interestingly, I haven't met William, but I've heard about him from friends, like people I'm so close with, and like I was like, I haven't met the guy, but I know a bit more about him. So I'm like, it's like I know him, but I haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
So it's like definitely when I get time, I would definitely see him.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, Nyaika, I haven't even interfaced with Nyaika at all.
Okay.
And like he's someone who is on the ground because he's really popular right now.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he's got very good like stills, videos, he's doing
Mhm.
well.
When we were talking, I was like, but still, when I followed you and I watched your Instagram, I saw the work you're doing. And for me,
Mm,
on my podcast, if I get somebody pop celebrity, it's cool. If I don't get us, I don't put it out there. Oh, I'm only hosting people who are
yeah,
successful, people who are celebrities. As long as somebody is saying yes, I want to be on your podcast, that's all I need. And when somebody's willing to talk, to share, I believe that whoever person out there like is willing to talk or share a little bit of their story, it's gonna impact somebody else. So as long as somebody's
yeah,
willing to say yes, and yeah, the work you do too stood out to me. And as long as I can build a conversation with somebody, I appreciate and I want to give credit where it's due.
oh, thank you very much.
And I also saw you. We have a mutual friend, John Elijah. I don't know if you
Oh yeah.
know. How do you know
So
Muchiri?
so John, I know John through a friend also.
Okay,
It's interesting. So like I haven't met John, but like we're people like we've known each other like for like 3 5 years,
all right.
and it's like we know each other. So it's like why shouldn't I like I've known him for quite some time on Instagram. It's like
Mhm.
Instagram is a good way to meet friends though
Exactly.
you're not really like chatting all the time. You just like
Mhm.
have like a shoot and they're supportive of your posts. Like
Mhm.
they'll like them, they'll comment, and they'll give you the energy. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes Instagram is a dark world. Like
Mm.
you don't know what you're getting when you put something up.
Yeah, that is true, and I'm glad you mentioned that because 90% of the people I've posted on my podcast were connected through Instagram, or like I see their work on Instagram. It's like, hey, it'd be cool to
Yeah,
talk to this person about what they do and why they chose to do that, and maybe somebody out there will listen to a story of yours that we're going to talk about today and get inspired. And yeah, some people use internet for wrong reasons, but also internet is a good place like to meet content creators and people and build friendships. And I'm glad you brought that up. How did you start your photography? How did you get that idea to get into photography?
Well, photography for me was always something I liked because my memory
Yeah.
is very photographic. Like when I see a shot, even when I'm watching a movie, I'll be like, "That's a perfect shot." Like in
Mhm.
my mind, I'm like, it's like it has the good composition and it's a good it's a good still, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I started doing photography in 2013,
Okay.
2012, 2013. So a friend of mine, so at that time I was in China. I was doing my medicine course, and I had a friend, he had a Canon, and I was like, this thing is too expensive. I can't afford it. And I was like, you let me use it. Like, I would just take pictures just anyhow, and they looked awful.
Right.
And because I am an introvert, I like to stay to myself, and I've always wanted that kind of peace, like quiet morning walks, just doing absolutely something alone.
Right.
And during that time, I would find myself taking pictures. So over time, I got into taking very nice pictures, like slowly and advancing, and I was able to like get into photography because of one, a friend, two,
Hmm.
because of my personality, and three, because I was in a totally different place, like, and I had very few friends, and those who were my friends were like, they would not be the kind of people who are always around me. So I'd be like, if I wake up, I always wake up early in the morning, and that's what I would have to do, like take pictures. And I
Hmm.
was in a very beautiful city in China. It was a very beautiful city. So every time you see something different, you're like, let me take a picture of this.
Hmm.
It wouldn't look as good as you expect it to be, but slowly
Yeah.
by slowly, I started watching YouTube videos, um, getting into like how to get better, and that's how I got into it.
That's pretty cool. And photography is one of my hobbies. Like I love taking pictures and I'm also a nature person. When I moved to America, I started
Yeah,
taking pictures with my phone. And actually, I'm not like a professional photographer at this point, but when I started, it's cool. I don't know if you've ever heard of the guy called Moxie Photography in Uganda.
Moxie.
He does more of like functions and people. He takes like people's photography. He's Moxie and he's my OB. We went to high school together. I was a class ahead of him. And when I
Mm,
moved to America in 2014, I would take pictures of like nature, like things. And I started an Instagram page. I think I call it Chivuka Photography. I don't do a lot now, but like
yeah.
I still post once in a while. But when I
Hmm.
see other people who are into photography, it makes me happy and smile because that's something I really like, especially nature photography. And Moxie tells me all the time, "You're the reason I'm a photographer now." And he took it to the
Wow.
next level. Like he is like taking pictures of like celebrities in Uganda. He does like Judith Hard's picture, like all those people, and you see his work. I appreciate when he gives me the credit, but I'm nobody right now. I don't take pictures for. I don't even know a lot of skills in photography, but it's still in me that I'll get my phone out, take a picture of something. Now that I work with airplanes, I've recently posted a lot of like pictures of airplanes, some cool pictures. So anytime I see a photographer, I want to sit down with them and see your journey. And that's the whole reason why I was like, I need to still have a conversation with this guy about his journey. You mentioned about
Mm,
China, and I had that down in my notes. I actually saw the picture you're talking about in China. You took it in December of 2018. How was your time
yeah.
in China? You said you were doing your intern for
So I did my university in China, and then I got back here so to practice. So my time in China was about 6, 7 years.
okay.
I always say 6 or 7 because I'm not very sure how long I was there for, but it's quite very long.
Mhm.
And in between, I had a hiatus. I was back here, and then I went back. So my time in China was really good. I would say it was a build. It was an experience that built me a lot in being very independent, which to some extent is a bad thing. Um, I used to live alone,
Hmm.
so I would know how to socialize with myself. Maybe if I would socialize with other people was when I was maybe at, if I had a job,
Hmm.
if I had to deal with my classmates, and like it kind of built me in such a way that I have fences around me, like
Yeah.
I can be by myself and independent. Another thing is that I learned to deal with like um, in China you will expect racism there. With the Chinese racism, it's very different. It's not like they will shout at you and say, "Oh, you stink. You're very," they will not do that. But it's more of like there's the curiosity part where you have a kid who come rub up your skin. Like I was like, does it like get any brighter? so so like they will have that curiosity when you have with kids, and then they're superstitious as Chinese people. They'll be like, black people are like a reincarnation of us when we die.
Hmm.
So like they'll always have things like that. But I think it's because of what they've been told, and like it's not the hardcore racism that you'd expect.
Yeah.
Maybe the toughest racist thing maybe I saw was when I got on a bus one time, and this I don't know, it was an old lady, and I went and sat up to her, and she covered her nose like it's like I was stinking, but honestly I wasn't. And I tried to smell, and like, do I really smell worse? I was like, it's okay. Yeah, so that's the kind of racism you'd expect in China, and of course there's some like extreme like cases you'd find, but personally I didn't expect like that much of racism in China. It kind of builds you to like deal
Mhm.
with these small simple things, just don't get angry over those small
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
That is crazy that you share that because so the people that I've mentioned on the podcast, I had John on the podcast too, and
Mm,
interviewed John. He lived in Bangkok for a while, and
yeah.
he was sharing his time in Bangkok, and he said people thought he was a monkey, like they would call him that. It's tough, and that's the whole reason. When I see somebody has lived in another place, I've lived in America for I think now it'll be like 10 years, something like that. But when I see
Mm.
somebody who has lived in another country for a long time, I would like to listen to their story, how that was. And it gets tough, but how you navigate life through the. Did you leave China in 2018?
Um, I I left China in 2019. I think that was shortly before COVID
That's
came
what I
in.
was gonna bring to. Like, how did COVID get you? Because I know it hit China really bad. Like, how was that when it was getting close to that? How was? Did you sense anything happening, or you left before
I
it
don't know,
happened?
but I left before it happened because personally I was feeling I felt like I wasn't alive
Hmm.
personally, like my social life, and I just felt like I needed to go back home because I had two jobs at the time. I was earning good money. I was stable. Like my bank balance was laughing at me. It was like, you're okay, but
Yeah.
my social life, my like I wasn't feeling myself. And much as I don't share with so many people, I honestly felt like I just had to do it. Like I had to leave. And
Hmm.
it came at a point, like I don't know if it was just God looking out for me and it's like, you just have to have a bad social life now and just leave. And I just told myself I'm quitting, and I'm quitting. Like I used to teach a science at some school, and I
Yeah.
told them like I will not like renew my contract. I do not want to continue here. Um, I also had another job where I was teaching English, and I told them, you know what, you guys, much as I want to be here, like I enjoy the classes, I enjoy everything. Like it was very good interaction. I like quit. Like I was like, I'm not going to renew my contract. Like
Yeah.
it was down like I want to go home. Like it's not like I miss the food in
Mhm.
Uganda, no. Because I cook different kinds of food. Like when I'm here
Yeah.
in Uganda, I'll cook like absolutely like different kinds of food because I enjoy like cheeses, I enjoy like creams, I enjoy different like steak. I enjoy,
Mhm.
a whole different like kind of food. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I was missing anything. I just felt like I
It
was
wasn't.
not in the right
Yeah.
in that time, and I was just like, I should be doing like medicine. Like
Yeah.
it just in my head like do something that you've studied for, and like
Mhm.
so I kind of like felt like I should leave. And when I left, like 4 or 5 months, then I start hearing things about COVID, like there's
Okay.
a new like flu, and I was like, it's probably a bad flu, like it's
It go away.
SARS. It's
Yeah.
been there before. It will end. Just give it a few like, and before I know it, like it's too much. It's too
Mhm.
big, and it was very different.
That's crazy. We were in America and you'd hear stories people dying in China. Like a lot of people like
Hmm.
it hit China so bad. I don't know if that's how he hit it so bad like we saw in the news, but that's what you could hear. And I was wondering if that
Um,
got you any there. Mhm.
no, it never did. I think I'm just a very lucky person. Like,
Yeah.
luck was on my side, and I didn't face anything. But I had friends who I left there, and they told me it was horrible. They could not leave. They had to get food delivered to their like doorstep, and I
Hmm.
think that would have crushed me even the more. I'm just a lucky person, I think.
Touch a little bit on COVID in Uganda. How after you moved to Uganda, what it was like for you when you went back?
When I got back, um, it was very hectic, I think, for the first few like weeks. But like, you can always adapt if you're someone like me, like if you've adapted in a very cold area, you've adapted in a place where you can't speak the language initially, and I thought like I could adapt. So I get here, and I think it was my cousin's wedding, like
Mhm.
introduction. So I kind of like got on with the flow, just went on, and I think a few months in, COVID was so big, like they closed everything, and you'd have to stay in, and it was again the same old like very boring like thing you had to like stay in. Then I think we had like one or two lockdowns. So
Okay. Yeah.
the second lockdown I was lucky. I was working at a hospital then, and it was kind of like good because like I was even able to like see some like training like PPE, like use of and disposal of different kinds of things. So it was it
Mhm.
was it was quite good. There I was a
Yeah.
bit active, quite good.
Okay. Did you personally have to deal with people who had COVID when you were at the hospital?
Yeah, I did have to deal with people who had COVID. Actually,
Yeah.
my dad had COVID.
Yeah.
So like I just don't know. I don't know. I'm just a lucky person. I don't know. Like luck is on my side. Like
Mhm.
this time my dad so my stepmom calls me and she says dad is not doing well. So she had an oxygen monitor we call
Mhm.
pulse oximeter, and it was showing like he had an oxygen saturation of 72. So 72 is very bad.
Yeah.
um the good range should be about 93 to
Mhm.
100, like about 93, 94.
Right.
And he was doing bad, and I was thinking like I'm working at the referral hospital. I can definitely get my dad a bed here. You know
Mhm.
what? So I was like, let's get him here as soon as we can. So I go drive, and I was lucky I had like a chat like that would enable me go
Yeah.
through inter-district. So I go pick him, and I like we agree, and like we see how to do it and make sure that he's positive and he wants to get treatment. Interesting story that happened, like this was from Kenjojo to Fort Portal. So there is a
Mhm.
forest, Kivale forest. So
Yeah.
as so when we were going to hospital, he had a monitor with him, and I just looked down on it just to see, like, what if we get stuck in this forest and this guy dies on me? So I looked down, and we're in the forest, deep down in the forest, and his stats were like 91,
Mhm.
92, and I'm like,
You're
this guy
fine.
is breathing well. It should be
Yeah.
the trees. It's fresh air. So I'm like, so like I drive in slower and more comfortable and confident. Like we can get through this and get there. So lucky enough, he survived and he's fine.
I got COVID. Actually, my COVID didn't get me till last year in July. Like that's when I got the first
Mm,
one. But I was an essential worker too. I worked through COVID here in the States. I mean, we were airplane mechanics, but the job, the airlines that I work for is a cargo airline. So they're the ones that were flying stuff to China and from China people. So we had to stay working so the planes can go around and bring people, take
yeah,
supplies and all that. So I worked through it and I never got COVID at the time. But it was until I left and then I went to the cruise in Bahamas. And on that cruise, that's when I got COVID because there was like million
yeah.
people on an
1,000 people.
elevator. Yeah, like you enter an elevator with like 30 people in there, and like every day, and we were on the cruise for the whole week. So when we got back, I had COVID
Mm.
and had to stay at home. Mhm.
It's so interesting. Like you've got like I had my dad. I think my girlfriend at the time, had COVID. Like when we went to visit her family, like she did have she had COVID. Like we were interfacing, like sharing meals, but like I didn't like
Yeah.
I didn't get like COVID at all. Like, and it was so interesting. Like everyone was surprised. Like, why don't you have COVID?
Yeah.
But I think my body reacted when I got the vaccine,
Mhm.
so I felt like that was COVID.
Yeah.
I didn't I never got it at all after that.
It's cool though. We talk about the memories of COVID. It was really a tough time for a lot of people. And I apologize to all the listeners that will listen to this and have PTSD of their loved ones died of
Oh
COVID.
yeah.
But I'm glad that we're past that. And sorry to everybody that had a tough time in COVID. So now we will focus a lot in your photography. Actually, the one question I want to ask you, how do you balance your time for being a doctor and doing photography? How do you balance that?
Um, well, I think it's very difficult to balance, work and like passion and leisure. But I think the most important thing is you can't always be working.
Mhm.
If you bury yourself in like work, you can get so like burnt out. And I was sharing this with one of the doctors here who I thought was overworking himself. I'm like, that's too much. But like out of the work environment, you need to like have something that you do that you enjoy and something that makes you think less of work. So I kind of try to put that in myself because if I'm too much into the work environment, I think I become very dull. I'm not
Yeah.
as active and I'm not as funny, and I cannot like have a different side to like tell the people like at work. Like the last weekend I visited a farm with apples, and I was just talking about apples like the whole week. Like I felt happy. Like I
Yeah.
was even cracking jokes. Like now my patients don't need to see doctors if I just send them to the farm, like where the apples are. Like I was just
Yeah.
like joking, like,
Mhm.
but I think when you see things out work, you can really like um be active. You can be more productive at work.
When you were younger,
Hmm.
what was your childhood dream? Did you ever think you're gonna be a doctor and you're gonna be a photographer? What was the dream you had? Even like, yeah, when you're younger.
It's very interesting when you're young. The dreams according to the things that you interface or see very, very often. But um when I was young, I think I wanted to be a priest. We had a neighbor who was a priest, and this
Okay.
guy was very nice. Like he was so good. Like I don't know why he was not in like I don't know, is it a monastery? What is it called? Like where they stay. But he was
Yeah.
just around and he liked children. Like that is someone I'm someone who loves children, and every time I see a child, I am very happy. He would buy me sweets, he would always like talk to me, he would see that I'm fine. I was like, I should be a priest. So, but slowly, I knew what priests have to be, and I knew that like you cannot get married. Like slowly, like I'm like, no, I cannot not get married. Like,
That's a red flag.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm not a Catholic. I cannot be a priest. So slowly by slowly, the dream changed. And then we went to a dentist one time. I was not happy. I was like, I should be a dentist so I don't have to pull someone to pull my teeth out. So it was like, you know, when you're a child, you have your dreams like going in between like different like things. I don't know. The dream to be a doctor, I think, came with time
Mhm.
because like I've always loved like life. I've always been passionate about like people. Because if you see me in a hospital setting, you'd not think I enjoy photos. Like
Yeah.
I'm so like passionate about seeing someone get better. Like if any of my patients sees me, the first thing they would align with me is he loves like patients,
Mhm.
and mostly if they're children.
I like to ask people about their childhood dream to see where their dream died off or if they still on the same track with their dream. So I like to throw in that question once in a while to ask people.
No,
Um, so you love nature. Do you have any other
yeah.
inspiration? Like, what is your inspiration of photography?
So one, it was my personality, and two, it was from a friend. So I don't know if I'll have to like share. He's like he's American and currently lives in Scotland. He's called Warren McLeod,
Okay.
and like we were good friends, and like I would see his photos and I was like, I want to be like this. I even want to get better. Like he's got like very nice stills.
Yeah.
So I would always like look at his photos and I'm like, I want to do this. Like so he kind of inspired me to do photography.
But actually, you hit two birds with one stone because I had a question here. I was going to ask you whose work has influenced you the most. But yeah, that answers it. What's one thing you wish you
Yeah.
knew when you started taking photos?
One thing I wish I knew. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be patient in learning photography. Like when you take pictures and then you see the product of
Hmm.
what you've taken,
Hmm.
and then you see someone else's work, like you compare it and you're like, I want it to be like that. That's the one thing I think I really like needed to learn in photography when I was like starting out.
Yeah.
Your work can never be as good. It's just like even when you drive a car. Like if you drive today and you drive after 500 kilometers like of your driving experience, you get better after the 500, not after the first kilometer. So like
Yeah.
you always have to like build on that small like things. So I think that's one thing I wish I had learned before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always felt bad. Like, oh, the pictures look so awful. They don't look like his. The colors are too bright.
Not only in photography, but with the podcast. Like I watch a lot of podcasts, like famous people, celebrities, like they put a lot of money in their work. I'm like, I want my podcast to look like that. I want it to be like that. Which it's good on one hand, but it also like you just be in your lane and do what you can do. The thing I do is I learn something from them. Like if I see, hey, this is the position, the studios, this is how they do, and like I want to incorporate that in my work so it can look better. But yeah, that the comparison is always there. Like you look at their page, there's really this guy Jay Shetty. I think it's Jay Shetty. Yeah, his podcast. I love him. I love him so much, and he's like a big guy. I love Kevin Hart too. His podcast and whatever he does. So I look up to those guys and just copy what they do. But it's always that you go on somebody's page and check them out, and they have this and they have that. we're coming close to the end
Yeah.
of this podcast, but I have a few questions I'm going to ask you here, and then we'll wrap it up. When you go out to shoot, do you take any essential items other than a camera and the lens?
So it depends. In most cases, I'll take my phone.
Mm-hmm,
That's a must. The phone always do the easy work,
mm-hmm,
and then, but I think when I shoot and if I shoot, I'll take my favorite lens.
yeah.
So it's a Canon 135. I'm saying Canon because I use it on the Sony. So I adapt it to the Sony and then I'll use it. But it's my favorite, like it's my go-to lens, and it's
Mhm.
for like very far off shots.
In all your pictures that you've taken, whether it's on Instagram, whether we've not seen on Instagram, what has been your favorite picture ever you've ever taken and why?
Favorite picture. Difficult one to choose. It's very difficult. So like one of them I did shoot with a drone. And so this one time there was like a sunset, and I was like, this looks beautiful. Like it had all the colors like of a rainbow that you need.
Mhm,
And like it was a perfect like moment. Like you had cars going through, you had a stadium just like close. So it had the green like color. And you had the sun like all like it was a bit like um magenta. Like
mhm.
it was such a good shot. Like
Yeah.
so I was very happy with that one. Then there's this one time actually happened recently. Like so confused on what to do. Like I was driving on the Kasese Mbara Highway, and I just find lions, and in that moment,
Wow.
I was confused on what to do. Like I was alone in the car, and I was like, "Do I open the window? Do I get out?" Like so, I was stuck in myself, and I was all like sweating, like all excited. Like I've got lions here. Like what do I do? Like I need to shoot them. Like I'd never shot like lions like that close,
Mhm,
and I think there is one particular shot where the lion was in the grass. So I opened the window. I didn't feel like I was not scared at all. So I was
mhm.
able to take a picture of the lion. Then I think that's like one of the few pictures I feel like, wow, that was a good one.
There was, I don't know if it was your camera, or I think it was your shot.
Mm.
The one, the caption was like, if you don't look close, you can miss it. Was it a cheetah? Was it a lion that was in the different angles
In
of,
a shrub in a tree.
yeah, in the shrub? It was black and white.
Oh, that was a leopard, I think.
Leopard.
Leopard.
That was
Yeah.
interesting. I looked at all the slides and like I think you had slide 4 something like that, where if you don't pay attention, you will miss it, like you can't see it. You have to look very
Yeah.
close to see it. Where was that at?
Yeah. That was in the national park. So I think I had a game drive, and I happened to like stumble on like a group, and they were like following and tracking. So I was so lucky that I was able to like capture this like leopard, and I personally had never seen one in like moving around, because the only time I'd seen one, we were driving in the park and it just crossed like
Yeah.
you didn't see it. If you weren't attentive enough, like the person who was driving was like, it was right there. I was like, I didn't see it. But this
Mhm.
time it was there like for like ages, like an hour, 30 minutes. Like you were all looking at it and you could
Right.
enjoy it.
That
Yeah.
was that was pretty dope. The other one, and now all the pictures I've seen that you've taken are coming back in my head. I was almost ending. I'm gonna end it. Don't worry. It was about the,
Mm.
was it the gorillas or the baboon? No, was it the baboons? I mistake them. Where you said sometimes we see them very often. Like when you drive on the going northern Uganda, you see them on the roads all the time. So
Yeah.
like they're
Mm.
not. But you took this picture. Talk about that.
So
Of it.
this when it happened, that was a crazy day, by the way, because I had driven from Kampala at 4 a.m. and gone to Kienjojo, and then I was driving back to Ishaka. So like in that day, I think I drove close to like probably close to 1,000 kilometers
Oh, wow.
because I drove from Kampala through Mbarara, then Ishaka, then I went to Kenjojo, then I went back to Ishaka. So I kind of like did a full like it was quite a lot of
Yeah.
distance, and I was so this time I was like I need to like pay more attention and see these baboons. And when I took the pictures, they looked very special and they were nice. And in my mind I was like, I've always seen baboons, not this way.
Yeah.
Like you always see them, they're just like they're baboons, there's so many, like
Mhm.
you can see them all the time. But this particular picture I think did strike much of like how I want to like evolve as a photographer.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy the quiet moment of like taking a picture, because I'll take like 500 pictures and I'll only select 30 and I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that. Because like because you don't do that with people.
Mm.
When you tell someone that you've taken 5,000 pictures, they want 5,000.
Right.
Like you took 5,000. And like you can't do that with animals. Like you don't bargain. You just say, this is what I have.
Yeah.
So
For real.
it's always like a difficult thing. I think that's why I haven't done much of people photography,
Mm.
because um I don't know, like I I take a lot of thinking into when I take a picture. Like
Yeah.
I'm like thinking, and then I will see something funny in like a shot that I take of someone. I'm like, but I can't tell them. If I tell them, then they'll think I'm picking on them, like I'm being negative. So
Yeah.
it's always been a hard thing to like take people pictures. But sometimes I'm lucky enough to like take good pictures of people. So it's not
Mhm.
like I close the door totally to like I'm never taking pictures of people.
I also like the picture of yourself. Like, I think people I'd say you don't ever post yourself, and you took some. I think two pictures that you posted of yourself on there. I
Hmm.
think you're wearing a hat and like a red shirt or something. Oh, pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think I don't know who it was, but like someone did ask me like, you never post pictures of yourself. I think someone special. And she was telling me like you look good. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you sure? So you go in the mirror and you're like, oh, that's good. And like so I was like, okay, I need to, yeah, honestly get a picture of myself. So I kind of like was lucky enough that I had a setup, and I was able to take that picture, and I could not believe what I saw in the camera. I was
Yeah.
like, this looks good. Like I was like, yeah. And it's always like hard to take pictures of yourself,
Yeah,
especially.
but it's true. I love pictures. I take a lot of pictures of myself. I think now I've slowed down ever since I got too busy in two podcasts that I don't really. I used to take a lot of pictures of myself, a lot of pictures of different things, and just post on my Instagram. But yeah, so like I told you, we're coming close to this, and I still took too long. I enjoyed
Oh, that's good.
having and listening to your story. I'll also, for some of the pictures we've talked about, I wanted to ask the request of. I would think I'd just get a screenshot of your Instagram, not downloading a picture, to include it when I'm
Yeah.
editing the video, to just so the listeners or the people watching on YouTube can see the pictures we were talking about. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
yeah,
That's
the
fine.
last questions I want to ask you: what's been a life lesson you've learned to this point?
Life lesson. Well, like I deal a lot with patience and having to, be the stronger person in telling them like you'll have someone who has lost a baby. Just like yesterday I had someone who like had a miscarriage, and the day before, like no, I think it's actually yesterday, there was a mother who had like serious bleeding, and like we had to do an operation to take out the baby because the placenta came out fast before the baby, and there was no way you're gonna have to deliver that baby. And like she was bleeding, she was getting into shock, and I was like, we have to do this. So like like in that moment, like there is chaos, there is problems, and she's thinking, oh, I've lost the baby. Like she's thinking of things far ahead. So what matters most, like when there is chaos, is the moment, like now, what's like in the future. And like I've always seen, like when babies never cry when they're still, because they're at peace. But
Hmm.
when they get out, like the moment changes. Like they're like, it's too cold. It's different. Like it's chaotic in most cases. I'm someone who does not panic when like I am like in like if I feel like I'm in trouble. And that's the one thing I think people should always learn. Like what matters is like the moment now, like something you're doing like right now. Because if you worry about like tomorrow, if you're worrying about like the future, then you can never like move on. Like you can
Right.
never like have a peace of mind. Like you can't be happy.
Hmm.
So if actually one thing I've been thinking about is like right now when I'm done with my internship, I'm like jobless. Like
Yeah.
I would have to be like worried, like, oh, there is no job now. Like,
Mm.
but I should be in the moment and just enjoy the
Enjoy the
time now.
moment.
Because if if you like think so deep, then it dampens your mood. Like you're not gonna work as perfect as you can. And I think that's the small thing like I've learned, like
Mm.
just to be like patient in that small like
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, that's a good life lesson. And I always remind people like there's a lot of, if you start thinking about all the like what's gonna happen tomorrow and the next day, you can't control that because it's not yet here. Just
Mm,
be in the moment and enjoy what's there at this point. Like, yeah, things might not go well like you wanted to, but
yeah.
there's some things you can't control. Just enjoy the moment. All right. So the last question I want to ask you is my signature question on the podcast. Like, who would you like to see on my podcast next? And you're gonna help me connect me to that person to be the guest on my podcast.
Mm, let me see. Who should I? Who should I? Who should I? Who should I? Who should I tell you to? Oh, there's actually so many people.
Yeah.
So there's someone called Arnold,
Okay.
short by Moo. Do you
Mm.
know him?
No, I don't think I do.
So shortly before I came back from China, I contacted him like on Instagram, and I was like, "You should. You're actually a very good photographer, and how'd you get your drone in Uganda?" So I asked him that simple question. Like, so he's been a friend. Like, there's you should definitely interview Shot by Moo.
Hmm.
Um, but there's someone who shares a name, Busingye Kagonyera.
Okay.
He's Busago. He's
Okay.
he's he's also a good photographer. Um, I would love to see him on your podcast.
Okay.
You asked one person, and I'm like two already. Um, you should also have Robs on your podcast also.
Robs is a photographer too.
She's a journalist, and she's a very dear friend to me. So you you
That'll
you
be
should interview her too.
that'll be amazing. So yeah, what you
You
can do
three
is
choices. It's up to you to choose one.
no, I appreciate when you choose more than one because that makes me like I'll never run out of guests. My podcast will keep going.
Yeah.
So the more you recommend, the more I'll have more episodes to put out. And it's cool because when I say this, so when I host people, like I hosted Mr. Musinguzi, and then Mr. Musinguzi recommended another content creator. And both of them, when they listened to their episodes, they learned things they didn't know about each other. And they've been friends for a long time. Because, like, when somebody
Wow.
comes and they, so Mr. Musingo is the one I told you about. He worked in MTN for a while before he got into photography. And he was the customer service on the back of the phone, when you call MTN. And then I actually had him say that thing when they say, customer waffe omulungi weewale kutukubira ku MTN, like something like that. It's like,
Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah. But yeah, it's cool. So it'll be fun to have all these your friends on here, and they get to listen to this too. So yeah, Frank, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you and chat with you on my podcast. I had a blast and getting to know you. I can't wait for my listeners and your friends to hear a little bit of your story and your journey into photography and everything you do.
Thank you. It was an honor to like share this story because I usually share it with my friends. Like not many people know about it, and like I think for a journey that I've had in photography, I've enjoyed. Though like I do not post that much. Like I've always had that weakness. Uh, like I would post what I used to post like once in a while. Like sometimes I'm like does it really good like I'm my own critique, so like
Yeah.
you always have that thing like should I really post this, like what's the caption, like I've always liked a killer caption, like when you
Yeah.
caption it someone reads it as like deep. You're
I'm
like
big in
it's
captions. That's why I brought up a lot of captions I've read on your pictures. I'm
oh
big
yeah.
into captions. So actually, the other photographer I'm going to interview, somebody was talking about him on the podcast, and he said he has 1,000 pictures he has not posted because he doesn't have captions for them.
Wow. That's difficult.
But yeah, anyway, thank you very much, and I appreciate you being on the podcast. We'll get on to the editing, and then hopefully we'll be out, and the people can listen to your story.
Thank you very much, it was a pleasure.
Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.